Since the inquiry last year, several submissions have been posted onto the McGrail Inquiry website, starting with one made by Hassan's law firm, and this was made just one day before the inquiry began hearing closing oral submissions last June. Following much media attention after last year's public inquiry, Hassan's law firm, its senior partner James Levy KC and his legal representative Luis Baglietto KC filed a detailed submission to the chairman of the inquiry. It stressed that they did not seek the termination of Ian McGrail's service, nor did they do anything to procure it. However, they accused Ian McGrail of being only too ready to make assumptions about Mr. Levy's role in his demise by floating allegations of impropriety. The reality, Hassan said, was that Mr. Levy sought to legitimately respond to an unlawful warrant served against him. In that moment of crisis, Mr. Levy states that the issue was not Ian McGrail and his solution was not his removal from office. Sir Peter Openshaw's ruling in December said while he had considered their representations, much of it was about what they claimed to be the defects and inadequacies of the RGP's investigation into Operation Delhi. He said Hassan's now sought to put forward a defence, but the inquiry chairman said this went way beyond his remit, and he stressed he was not conducting a judicial review. He also said that many of the court participants who subsequently filed their own submissions were outraged at what they saw as an attempt to make very late representations without incurring any of the consequent duties and obligations attaching to court participants, and they urged the chairman to disregard it. Sir Peter Openshaw acknowledged that Mr. Levy and Mr. Baglietto were both important witnesses, and he accepted that they had been subject to public criticism. He therefore limited himself to agreeing to upload all the submissions onto the inquiry website. But he warned, this does not mean that I accept it as being relevant, let alone that I accept any fact asserted as being true. Sir Peter Openshaw said he will make his findings in his final report. At the end of last year's public hearing, and just one day before closing statements were due to be heard, the government parties raised concerns about WhatsApp messages that had not been disclosed between members of the RGP and also Ian McGrail himself. The crucial time frame there is between April and June 2020. That time frame is central to the inquiry's investigation into the early retirement of Ian McGrail. A large number of the WhatsApps were later disclosed, and Sir Peter Openshaw agreed that a fair examination of the facts was both necessary and in the public interest. Well before the public inquiry, a request was made to witnesses and court participants requesting the disclosure of documents, text messages and WhatsApps relevant to the subject of the inquiry. During last year's hearing, much was made of missing or deleted messages, mostly directed at Hassan's witnesses and the government parties. However, once the main hearing was over, the government parties raised concerns that they had not been provided with disclosure of WhatsApp messages between Ian McGrail and senior members of the RGP, including Police Commissioner Richard Alger. However, Mr. McGrail reported that his devices were seized by Senior Investigating Officer John McVeigh, and when they were returned, the WhatsApp account had been deactivated. Once he and Mr. Richardson retired, their work phones were wiped by the Royal Gibraltar Police as part of its mobile device policy. Both say, however, that they did consent to the retrieval of messages from any backup or copy that might exist. While many WhatsApp messages have since been disclosed, some remain missing. The government parties, represented by Sir Peter Caruana KC, pushed for the hearings to be reconvened, arguing that the late disclosures by the RGP and Mr. McGrail have undermined the fairness of the process. However, Mr. McGrail's legal team, led by Charles Gomez, opposed the application to reconvene, citing concerns over the emotional toll the inquiry was having on their client. Sir Peter Openshaw ruled that fairness demands that Mr. McGrail, Mr. Alger, Mr. Richardson and Cathal Yates face public scrutiny over their handling of evidence, just as Chief Minister Fabian Picardo and Attorney General Michael Llamas were previously challenged over their own disclosures. The hearing will last 3 days from Wednesday to Friday, starting at 10 till 4:30, with a break between 1 and 2. Day 1 will see a short introduction by the chairman and opening submissions by the counsel to the inquiry. Assistant Commissioner Cathal Yates and Police Commissioner Richard Alger will then give their evidence, followed by Ian McGrail if there's time. On day 2, we'll hear from Ian McGrail and Paul Richardson. And closing statements will follow on day 3, the order being the government parties, former Op Delhi defendants, the police authority, Paul Richardson, Ian McGrail, and finally the RGP. Sir Peter Openshaw originally said he hoped the final report would be ready by late spring, but this latest hearing does mean it will be delayed further, although he says it's already at an advanced stage. And although the disclosures will require some amendments to parts of the draft report, he said it's unlikely to affect his core findings. But before we see it, there will be a process called Maxwellisation. And what this means is that key individuals will be allowed to have a look and make representations about allegations made about them before we see the report. GBC will bring you full coverage from the Garrison Library.